There's enough in your vortex to keep you thriving for 20 or 30 lifetimes. That's how dynamic it is. That's how big it is. And you want some of it. How are you going to get it? You got to get in the receptive mode. You've got to think like your inner being thinks in order to be in that receptive mode. Esther had a funny experience because she's moving around California a little bit in the area where she is living part-time. And she came out of Starbucks a month or so ago. And someone said, Esther, and came up to her, delighted to see her. I am aware of you. I've been watching you on YouTube, and I can't believe that I've just run into you. And Esther couldn't believe it either. And she had her iced tea in her hand, and she was carrying her dry cleaning, and she was on her way to the car, and happy to see this bright, happy person. And so they exchanged an email or two, and then Esther did not think about him, except that she was aware every time she went back to the dry cleaners or every time she went back to Starbucks, she thought about that very pleasant meeting. So she thought about him 10 or 15 times since seeing him. So now, weeks have gone by, and now she is in another part of the city, 20 miles from there, and stopped at her new favorite place, In-N-Out Burger. Went inside and washed her hands and ordered her cheeseburger and got a big cup for a drink, and then is on the phone with her daughter Tracy, which is something really fun to do when eating lunch. And she said, hold on, I'm getting a drink. And Esther said iced tea, because she's decided not to drink the diet stuff anymore. Tracy's convinced her it's poison. Whatever. It is as you believe it to be. The worst thing you can do is believe something that isn't good for you and drink a lot of it. That is not a good equation. So she's on the phone with her daughter, and she's saying, I'm getting a drink, iced tea, I'm getting iced tea. And Tracy is saying, and how do I know that you're really getting iced tea? So Esther said to the total stranger standing next to her, tell her it's iced tea. So this very nice man speaks into the telephone, it's iced tea. And Tracy says, and how much did you pay him? And Esther said, tell her how much I paid you, $20. So Esther has now sort of embarrassed herself because she is really having way too much fun with strangers. And she looked around, and there were a fair number of people looking in her direction. And now she has her bag of burger and her very large drink and her purse and her keys and her phone. And she's making her way to her car, thinking, I'm not really presenting myself very well in this moment. And then getting in the car was very tricky, but she managed to get in without spilling anything on anyone. And when she got home, there was an email from her Starbucks friend who said, did you really get iced tea? He'd been standing there somewhere in the vicinity, witnessing the whole thing. And Esther is thinking, this is a law of attraction story. In other words, he's been active in my vibration. Of course the universe would bring him to me again. Now, this all seems inconsequential and maybe unimportant, but we want you to know these are the things that make up the hours and the minutes and the days and the weeks and the years of your life. In other words, what you are doing, how you are feeling, there isn't anything that Esther wants more than fun. And apparently she's developing a new fun friendship because she keeps having fun in odd ways, and this person keeps showing up. But what we are saying to you is there is nothing that ever happens. There is no rendezvous that ever happens. There is never anyone in your vicinity that is not in some way a player in the vibrational offering that you have been offering. So when something as inconsequential as that, Esther is realizing she's just had a few fleeting thoughts about this person, and he's showing up in her experience in a very not freakish, not lucky, in a very orchestrated by law of attraction way. Can you imagine what's happening with the thoughts that you're doing on purpose? Can you imagine what a focus wheel would do for you? Can you imagine the effectiveness of the universe who could line up things for you that you want if you weren't shooting them in the foot or introducing resistance to them with your own contradictory thought? But, you see what we're getting at? Esther didn't introduce any resistance into this idea of this young man. He was just fresh and bright and beautiful and something to think about, and there was no contradictory thought in her vibration. So he represents all things that you think about without resistance, who will come into your experience with the same magnitude of the thought that you've been offering. In other words, it's a casual meeting, and so that's the equivalent. In other words, it doesn't mean there's something big and meaningful. It doesn't mean that she should seek him out. It means it's a demonstration to Esther that that light thinking with that lack of resistance produces that. Would you like to do some less light thinking? Would you like to do some more concentrated thinking? Would you like to think more deliberately about more things? And would you like to do it with the same light ease, the same absence of resistance? Because when you do, the universe will bring that person right to you again. And the 20-mile radius, it's not a 20-mile radius. It's not, there is no limitation on the mileage radius at all. You have no idea how far we've come to be with you here today. There is no distance. There are no limitations apart from those that you apply through thoughts that contradict desire. You get that? We are eager to talk to you about anything that is important to you. There is nothing off limits. We're going to have a really fun day. Don't worry about us. We will wedge our message in the crack. What do you want to talk about? Some things. Deliberate creators you are. Yeah.